And they've got us just fighting each other.
Yes.
So they don't have to do anything because we're destroying each other
Yep.
faster than anything.
We can,
And that's why, like it says, like we've got to organize ourselves so that we make sure that we stay on the right path throughout the whole process. And that's going to be the most important thing of all.
for that, there's this whole other overarching narrative that's happening that Indigenous people aren't aware of.
Yes.
Because it's going to happen that if, say, China comes, they are not going to care about the Indigenous people
And
or their
treaties.
culture or their
That's
language. And so if
And
we
then
don't get ahead of this, they're
you'll
going to be
end up-
nothing.
Yeah.
Our system has existed, and it's like, hey, Canada, welcome. Welcome to what's been happening on the reserve.
But the reserve is such it's such a fraud, really. You know, like, and you don't really own the land. You don't have any
Equity.
technical title to the land. The land, the reserve is federal land. Conception that people have, thinking, Native people, they get no land, they get houses, they get all this stuff for free. There's nothing's for free.
It's poverty.
No, it's not.
Poverty. And so, like, you can tell where the money's going. It's clearly not going. There's no heart for the people.
You know, the government have tagged all the Native people. You know, this is your number. You're not a person. You're just a number. And without this number, you can't have nothing in life. You know, like, if you want anything, you got to present this number. And it really angered me.
It should.
And I was like 17. I grabbed my status card and I ripped it.
Cold Lake should be, every single one of us should be living in a mansion with the nicest vehicles, with the amount of oil and gas that's being drilled, with this Canadian base that's on our land.
Everybody would be prosperous. Everybody would get, say, royalties. But we've kind of seen that happen with Indigenous communities where they just hand out the money, but then they're still broke.
You have to raise the whole,
Yes.
all of them
Economic system.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You know, it just makes them feel so much better. You know?
Yep.
But it's just a temporary solution. It's just a band-aid.
Yep.
And like a lot of people who have received Cause and Applause money, and
Where are they today?
they were broke a week later.
Yes.
Yeah.
It didn't.
They ended up, a lot of them bought a brand new truck. Then they couldn't afford the insurance.
We had this lawyer speak, and he's just talking about it and stuff. But really, when you read through it, it's actually the chief and council that decides what happens with the cows and plows. So, if individuals are getting money, it's literally up to what the chief and the council decide.
And you're only getting a fraction of what...
You're only getting a fraction of it,
yeah.
But again, it's just that communist belief of just if you look at a handout.
Yes.
You go to Cuba.
I've been to Cuba.
You go to Cuba, you do not have to tell the Cuban people they live under communism.
Yeah.
Those people are literally swimming in ocean. They don't care. They are fleeing communism.
Yeah.
They do not care. That's the problem, is our people don't know that they're under communism.
No.
They literally don't. They're defending the treaties, believing that that's what the Indian Act is. That is not. The treaties are different from that, and that's where. And I don't think people really truly understand that, because if they did, they would be fleeing it like people do from communism.
We used 2 days. They've been out here for 2 days. So as long as I've been out here, they've been out here trying to make the crossing. And God bless those people.
They're doing it so slowly.
Yeah.
And our people are not. It's like that frog, the frog in the pot, and you slowly turn it up. They don't know they're being cooked.
The liberal
That's
man,
what's happening
like
today.
manifesto.
Yeah, right. And that's what's happening. They're trying to wake people up.
A lot of people are afraid to change.
That's right.
You know, and they can't accept
Exactly what
change.
it is.
And they can't accept change. You know, like it's like the communists. You can't really change a communist person. You know, when they're indoctrinated and like their mind never changes. A lot of them
Look at China.
A lot of them leave China, come here, but their heart still remains to the Communist Party of China.
That's right.
You know, it never changes. So I mean, these things are like people who can't accept change. They're indoctrinated into a certain way of thinking. Nothing is going to make them change your mind, no matter what.
And change represents, I think, like almost like an attack to them. Like they're gonna fiercely protect that, because it's almost like an attack against their culture, against their belief, their individual.
Which brings us back to the Native community. A lot of them can't accept change because it's been communist for since the 1800s.
I'm
going to lose my source of income. Yeah. What am I going to live on?
Right.
I can't go back to the old ways. I don't know how to live that way.
Right.
That's true. I said, I'm like, why did everybody back home buy the narrative? And he just said, I think we're just so used to being taken care of. And so then it just was natural for them to believe that the government was doing right on their behalf. But everything has shown the opposite.
Fiercely protecting something that actually isn't ours. It was given to us just for now, until the government says, well, you know what, I need to run a railroad through that, or I need to run a highway through that.
Which they've done time and time again.
That Canada will not be able to accommodate all Indigenous concerns. What that means is that they have decided to willfully violate their constitutional duties and obligations. Mr. Minister, Mr. Speaker, sounds like a most important relationship, doesn't it? Why doesn't the Prime Minister just say the truth and tell Indigenous peoples that he doesn't give a fuck about their rights?
And I thought, if any one of you think that the government is taking your land and giving it back to the Indigenous, literally give your head a shake.
Yeah, exactly.
The government has not done anything good for Native people ever. So you think they're going to start today? It's a land grab for them to take the land.
It is.
And they're using the Indigenous people to do it.
Yeah, the UNDRIP program is part of the WEF plan. Know where you own nothing and be happy.
That's right.
So what they want to do is take everybody's property rights away, and they're using the Indigenous people as pawns to do this with. And like I said, there's some highly paid people in there. In those positions that are making those decisions without giving the band members actual educated knowledge of what's really happening. And the government having the right to take away the responsibility of taking care of the land of the Aboriginal people without having any real reason why. That's a red flag right there.
Where the pipeline was going through the Wet'suwet'en people were the ones blocking it.
Yeah, exactly.
The neighboring kind of reserve to where I'm from.
For living in poverty, the way to overcome it is through proper training, trades, education, and a job.
Hereditary chiefs and headmen that were fighting to allow it through because it would give opportunity.
That's right.
But there was 5 hereditary chiefs who were standing to block it. But from what I understood, 3 of those names were stolen from women. Yeah, so they weren't really the proper hereditary chiefs. So the hereditary chief system is a monarchy. I don't think there is a perfect system. Because my family lineage there would never be a chief in my family, right? Even if we were the most noble family, right? But then you have another family that's not, and they're huge. Well, they're just going to pick their family to be the chief or whatever's going to get them the most benefit. So all systems are corrupt because of people. Even
in famous Frog Lake, for instance, where Chief Big Bear is from, his hereditary descendants are still there.
Okay.
But they're the poorest people on the reserve because the ban system, have really pushed them away so that they can never have an opportunity.
From 2013 to 2018, financial documents show the Frog Lake First Nation in Alberta lost $120 million in net assets. Band members have told APTN they want a full financial audit. APTN's Chris Stewart has more.
Treaties don't exist, like in BC.
Yep.
It's unceded territory. Like everybody just lived there, and have been living there for years without any big worries.
Is that why it's so easy right now for the government to
Yeah.
to give it back to the
Well, see, the
natives?
thing is, this is where UNDRIP comes in.
Yes.
Yes.
And this is the UN plan is to basically abolish all Indigenous people worldwide,
Yes.
whether it's in
But
Canada.
using them,
Yeah.
right?
Using
Using
them
them
to
to
do
get
it,
the
yes.
land.
The agreement's written up. Sure, it gives the Native people, the rights, but the government holds the opportunity that if they think that that ban is not performing properly, they can go in and take over, and they don't even need any excuses.
And we need to bring a majority of voters, of people along in this province. And right now, the province is in an economic squeeze, maybe one of the most detriment times we've ever seen. So if we don't have a successful province, then we don't have a successful Indigenous communities. And it goes vice versa. It goes both ways. And so although it might seem shocking that someone like me would have this position and this opinion about a legislation, I'm not saying pull back Indigenous rights. I'm not saying let's claw back reconciliation, and neither are any of my colleagues. I think what we're saying is that we need to take pause, use UNDRIP the way it was intended to guide the work that we do, and we need to roll up our sleeves and do the hard work of settling title in this province. And I don't think that DRIPA is the right tool to do that.
Well, it's just it's a whole grouping of people that they can move and mobilize how they see fit, right? By creating this narrative, because it started off as the noble savage, and now we have the environmental Indian, right? So whatever they can do to use this group of people to further what it is they want to further.
There's the cliques, like in the reserves.
Families.
Exactly. So there's ones, and then there's chief band council who are protecting their
agents.
their gravy train.
Yeah.
Well, see, this is the thing too. Is like I get a lot of dreams and all that too, and a lot of dreams like are more like a type of warning, and it's like they're trying to push a civil war.
Yes. Yeah.
And because when you have people, especially now, like in Alberta here, where you have land that you've had for generations, that you've farmed land for generations, you ain't about to give that up.
No.
And it don't matter who you are.
Yeah.
And like there's some people that are level-headed, but there are a lot that are not.
Yeah.
And like they'll revert to violence. It only takes one act of violence for retribution to come on the other side, and then all of a sudden,
Did you hear what happened recently?
that takes away their funding sources right away. So they will lose control of all the the monies that they have their hands on right now. But the thing is about Alberta independence, what's the biggest fight about Alberta independence is because it will open up a whole big can of worms.
Yes.
And it's going to expose a lot of lies that the average Canadians have been living with for generations. And this is the biggest fear, because they don't want this truth to come out. And that's why when we will have like a referendum vote, Alberta will vote to separate.
Yeah.
That is a given. I don't care anybody says
Yeah.
that. That's a given. But for the first 2 years, we're going to have the hardest life that we've ever experienced. But we have to do this for our future generations.
Yes.
Yeah.
And what the Westminster document that was written up, that gave each provinces their sovereign rights.
Mm-hmm.
That's why it was designed, because it was part of Queen Victoria when she passed away in 1905, and in her will, it was supposed to be that all the empire was supposed to be divided back to the original to the residents of those specific countries and all that. Like the Dominion in Canada was supposed to cease.
Every premier in Canada, including the Prime Minister of Canada, there's 2 councils, but they have to sign in order to be a leader of a province or of Canada. You must sign what they call the King's Privy Council.
Exactly.
That is a secret society, and that is signed an oath to the King, not to Canada, but to the King. So
when we get out of
that's a
the
dictatorship.
federal system and all that,
They know better for us.
the Canada, we need to purge the entire provincial government system.
I agree.
Because the federal government is going to throw everything they can at us.
Of course.
And what they're going to attack first, I'm going to tell you right off the bat, be the elderly.
Yeah.
They're going to attack them first, try to cut off their source of income.
Yeah.
Reduce you down to only CPP, because that's the only thing that they can't legally take.
Right. Yeah.
And then they're going to go after the handicap, the people who are
most vulnerable.
Yeah, there are all the vulnerable people. That's the first thing they're going to attack, because if you can attack them, all the aged people and all that. If you can attack those, then you're going to create a real environment where people are going to fight back and say, we wouldn't want this.
I believe that the world is going to turn to the Indigenous people and their teachings, because that is a very natural, beautiful, original way of living on this land together.
Strength they would have brought to the table and expanded on, like where we would be in Canada right now with all of that knowledge, and then time and technology.
What do we want for our children and our grandchildren? Because we've got to think like 7 generations ahead.
Yes, we do.
It's not just for us today. What we're talking about right now is getting our constitution ready.
Yes.
Especially in our Native communities, we need to start talking to it like to our family and friends and whatever, and say, okay,
change is coming. What sort of changes do you want to see?
Exactly. And we've got a pretty good map already laid out with the U.S. Constitution. It's rated the best constitution in the entire world.
Right.
Yeah.
And now, if we can educate people and letting them know that the U.S. Constitution is based on the Confederacy, on Six Nations Confederacy, and then you've got the involvement of First Nations people now and the Métis people on that. Okay, so let's get together. Let's start talking. What do we want to see? What rights do we want to reserve for ourselves? What do we want for our children and our grandchildren? Because we've got to think like 7 generations ahead. But that's what the independence, like of Alberta, if we can unite like as one people, and then
Unite as one people.
Allow the culture of the Native culture to be taught in schools.
Yes.
So that everybody knows about it.
Everybody knows about it.
And then you're gonna have a lot better understanding and a lot more acceptance. We've got a history of being pretty cooperative with each other.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Whether you're non-native or native, it doesn't matter. We've always found ways to work together. When we create a new government, it's a government that has equal representation from both Aboriginal and non-Aboriginal sides.
And I feel like it needs to be throughout everything. So,
And that's something that we would have to write into our Constitution. That it's enshrined in the Constitution, that it cannot be changed at any time in the future. And
Alberta, we do have our own spirit.
Yeah.
We always have, and we're coming back to it stronger than ever now.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
Alberta really has to come together and be one. Whether it's native or non-native, we have to work together, because we got to use our resources, and we have a lot of it.
we do.
And we got to take care of our vulnerable people, our elderly people, those who are in like single mothers, that are raising kids on their own and all that. Like, we got to take care of them, and we have to do this as a united people.
Yeah, I agree.
And this is the only way that Alberta is going to be a prosperous country.
Yeah.
Yep.
I agree.
Plain and simple.
Yeah.
Absolutely, there's no doubt.